Hi grade 12s and welcome to today's session. My name is Hayley and I'm going to be taking you through today's session. I'm really looking forward to it and I'm hoping that I'm going to be helping you lots. Today we're going to be dealing with working with numbers. Now what does that actually mean? Well, we're going to be doing a number of things. First we're going to be looking at basic calculations or simple calculations. We're then going to be looking at some percentage questions. We're going to be looking at some tables, various tables, and lastly we're going to be looking at some equations. So I hope that you're all set and ready and you've got like everything that you need in front of you and that we can go ahead and look at the session. So let's see what our first question is. So like I said, we're doing working with numbers. Our first question is adapted from, let me get a pen, right, adapted from November 2011, paper 1, question 1. So these are the first questions that you're going to experience and you're going to see when you start and you write paper 1. And they're quite easy, and what's nice about them is they actually get you kind of settled into the paper. So we need to be able to do these questions with ease, and you need to basically know that you're going to get about 80-90% for it, because there's nothing hard about these questions. So question 1.1 says simplify. And then it gives you a whole lot of big numbers, and we've got a square root, so let's just read it. We've got 241,50, we've got open brackets, big numbers, another big number, plus the square root of like kind of a big number with 4 decimal places. So I don't want you to panic about any of this. First of all, what we need to do when we look at this kind of question is we need to remember we've got something called BODMAS. Okay, so we are going to look at BODMAS. So quickly revise what that is. BODMAS is the brackets of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So in this particular question, it's got a different color. What are we going to do first? We're going to do my brackets first. So that's my first thing that I'm going to do. Then I'm going to do my multiplication. And remember, if there's a number next to a bracket, it means multiply. So we're going to kind of do that second, as well as doing this square root on the other side. So let's make that a third. And then finally, we're going to add the two numbers, and we're going to do that fourth. What I want you to do now, I know that most of you are going to be using scientific calculators, and you can in theory just really type this in exactly as you see it. But what I want to see, grade 12s, and it's very important, you need to show your working to the examiner. Because if you get the correct answer and you've just typed it into your calculator, well, you know what, you are going to get these 2 marks. But the problem is if you've made a little mistake in entering the numbers, then you're going to lose all 2 marks. Whereas if we show our method along the way, we can actually get method marks. So what I'm going to suggest is that we do like kind of 1, 2 together. We're going to do 3 together, and then we're going to add it. But we're going to show that value and show that value. And that's going to give us our method marks. So, okay, let's now delete all these things so we can see this quite clearly. In actual fact, I would even do it in another step. So let's take our 241,50. And if you'd like, type in the times. Otherwise, you could have left it as a bracket. Let's do this bracket on the calculator now. So we're going to get our calculator out, and we're going to say we've got 124,37 minus 121,79, and make sure that as you are typing into your calculator, you're actually checking. It is so easy to make a mistake on the calculator. So just double check that what you actually have on the calculator is what you want. And now let's press equals, right, and we get a 2,58. So let's go back to write that in, 2,58. I need a pen for that. And then we're going to say plus, and we can actually do the square root now. So let's get our calculator out again. Right, let's move our calculator over so we can see that number. And I've got the square root of 232,5625. Now, remember, you need to practice with your calculator, the calculator that you're going to be taking into the exams, because different calculators work in different ways. Some calculators, you might need to put a bracket around a number that you're square rooting. Some calculators you don't. So you need to practice with your calculator. You need to ensure that you know exactly how it works and when you need brackets and when you don't. So practice kind of makes perfect. Right, let's get that answer. It's 15,25. So let's write that in. So we've got that is 15,25. Now, before I actually carry on with this question, in my mind, I'm trying to make sense. What kind of answer would I expect? Well, I've got 251 times by like 2.5. I'm expecting an answer of about, like more than double. So I'm expecting about 600 odd. That's just kind of a rough guesstimate, a rough estimate of what I'm expecting, and then I'm going to add the 15. So if I get an answer that's totally different to what I'm thinking, then I'm going to have to go back and check. So let's now do this on the calculator. We're going to do that step and we're going to write that in. So we're going to leave our plus 15,25 because remember your BODMAS, we add towards the end. So let's do that part and let's get our calculator and move it to that side of this page. Right, so 241,50. We don't need that 0 on the calculator, but if you want, and then you can open a bracket and say 2,58. Or you can say times by 2,58. Okay, and we get an answer of 623,07. And remember I said it was about 600, so I'm happy with that answer. 623,07. 623, can't remember what I said, 07. And now I'm going to add my 1525. And guys, I know your instinct sometimes is to say, well, okay, I can do this in my head. You know what, why do it in your head? You've got a calculator, I'd rather use the calculator, even if it seems like a simple calculation. But it's the most frustrating thing for us teachers when we know that you've done it in your head, and if you had just used the calculator, and then made a silly mistake, should I say, if you just used a calculator, it was fine. I mean, I was marking some of my tests, and I had a question, it was 2 times 4. And for some reason, one of my kids said 6, and I thought, you know, they tried this in their head, and they added instead of multiplying. And it was so frustrating because I knew calculators right there, if they just used it, they would have got the marks. So don't do that. Use your calculator. So, right, we have our 623. We've already got that answer, so I can just add the plus the 15.25 and get an answer. So it's 638,32. 638,32. And that's my final answer. Now, have I got my 2 marks? I have. And remember, if you had done this in one step, in fact, I can show you now, we'll do it exactly in one step, and we'll get the same answer, but show your working. So let's do it in one step. Let's just let's find the question again and show you what I mean with your calculator. We can actually type it in exactly the way we see it. 50, open brackets, 124,37 minus 121,79, close the bracket, plus it was the square root, let's just move our calculator, of 232,56, remember, check as you're going along, 25, get an answer, 638,32. Hey, I think it's time to move on to the next question, without rounding off. So they don't want us to round off the answer. Convert 25,5 centimeters to meters. So, okay, conversion, very simple conversion. But before we go through it, let's just go through the details of conversions. So, how do we convert? Well, I like to think about it is, open your pencil case, and I hope that you all have a ruler in your pencil case, and I hope that you have a 30 centimeter ruler in there. But that's your little cheat for conversions. Because what do we get from the ruler? From the ruler we see that 10 millimeters is equal to 1 centimeter. Okay, so we get that from our ruler, which is in our pencil case. So we are legally allowed to take it into the exam. Then I need to think about how many centimeters are in a meter. So I want to know how many centimeters are in 1 meter. And I know that these are kind of multiples of 10. I know that's either 10, 100,000. I know that. It's not funny odd numbers. So if I think about my ruler, 10 centimeters is a distance of about that much. I hope you can see that on the page. I mean, on the screen. and look at your ruler to see how much 10 centimeters is. You know that's not a meter because you know that a meter is like a big step that you take. So clearly a meter is more than 10 and a big step is less than 1,000. So it has to be 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. And now we're dealing with how many meters are equal to 1 kilometer. Well, now think about it, and I always think about driving on the road. And I see the off-ramp on a highway, and I see that it's 1 kilometer away. So I know that it is more than 100 meters. Okay, especially seen as within that they tell you, well, okay, you now have 200 meters to go or 500 meters to go. So I know it's less than, as I know it's more than 100 meters. So it has to be 1,000 meters. And once I've got those, I write this out every time I do conversion. Now I go, well, if I'm going from a big number to a small number, I'm going from 10 to 1. The only way I can do that is if I divide. And if I'm going from a big number to from a small number to a big number, I need to multiply. Right, now let's look at our question. Our question says we're converting from centimeters to meters. So I find them on either side of this kind of table. Centimeters to meters. I'm looking at that row. So I know that I have to use this number 100. I'm either dividing by 100 or multiplying by 100. So let's say I'm going from centimeters to meters, so I'm going to be dividing. So let's do a calculation. So it's 25,5 centimeters. I'm going to divide that by 100. And I'm going to do that on my calculator. So it's 25,5 divided by 100. You can use your fraction button if you like. And we get an answer of 0,255. And remember they said don't round off. So that is 0,255 meters. Don't forget your units and don't round off because they said without rounding off. So go back and reread the question. It's important that you actually get every part of the question. I like to do the question, then I like to go back and reread it just to see we've got it perfect. Right, let's move on to the next question. Right, question still adapted from that paper, question 1.3. How many eggs are there in a tray containing 2.5 dozen eggs? Well, what's important here is how many is a dozen? And this is something that you need to know. This is something that we kind of, as maths teachers, assume that you know. So we know that 1 dozen is actually 12. So if I want 2.5 dozen, well, what am I doing? I'm actually looking at a ratio here. Because I've gone from 1 to 2.5, I've had to times that by 2.5. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to times it by 2.5. Instinctively, you might have known this. You might have known that we need to take, 2.5, and a 2,5 is easier for me to write it that way. It's easier for me to actually type it into the calculator. So I always like to write my 2.5 as 2,5. And we're timesing that by 12. And I'm going to use the calculator. As like I said to you, I've got it. 2,5 times 12 is equal to 30. So that is 30 eggs. Does the answer make sense? I'm expecting an answer that's bigger than 12, and I get that kind of answer. So I think that I'm right on the right track. And show you're working. Don't leave out this step. This step is really, really crucial. It's really important. It's like I said to you, if you make a mistake, at least you can get method marks. Those method marks add up. Let's move on to the next question. Right. We've got to determine the time 2 hours and 7 minutes after 22:57. Now, when we're adding time, I'm going to show you a little trick on the calculator, which I hope that you can follow, but I'm going to do it the long way first. So we're starting with 22 hours and 57 minutes, and I need to add to that 2 hours and 7 minutes. Now, what is important is we need to remember, okay, that we are working with 60 minutes in an hour. So as soon as I go above 60, I need to move up the hours. So let's add this. In fact, I'm going to even use my calculator to say 57 plus 7, and I get 64. So this would be This would be 64. But I can't have more than 60. So this 6, I'm actually going to delete from here, and I'm going to add it as an hour. So it's 4 minutes plus an extra hour. And now I've got 2, 4, 5, 25. But now what happens 25? No, I actually only have 24 hours in a day. So I need to move that up from 24. So we're going to minus 24 from here. And I'm actually saying, well, okay, my 04 stays. And I've got an extra hour. So that makes it 1 hour and 1 day. So this is 1 in the morning. So it's 1:04. And we started off at 22:57. Now you could probably leave out the AM because we're dealing with a 24-hour clock. Okay, but don't forget these crucial facts. 60 minutes going to the next hour and 24 hours kind of going to the next day. So what I want to show you is on your calculator we actually have a time button. So we could take 22 hours. I'm typing in this little button. I'm actually going to write it out. So you can check on your calculator and you need to practice this. The button that we're using is the one that's kind of got 2 dots and, let me go back to it. It's got a dot, a comma, and 2 commas. A comma and another comma. That's the time button. Well, I call it the time button. I'm not sure what it's actually called. Okay, so let's go through this. So we've got 22 hours and 57 minutes. And to that we're going to add 2 hours and 7 minutes. And we're going to press equal, and you can see that I've got 25 hours, 4 minutes, and 0 seconds. But now I still need to convert to my day. So that just helps me with adding it up. It helps me add the minutes and not forget that the minutes are only 60 minutes in an hour. So it gives me my 25:04, which is what we got there. So practice with that and see how you go. Practice adding a whole lot of numbers and you'll get that answer. And you still have to remember that fact. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Right, determine the length of one side of a square if the perimeter is 36 meters. So now what we need to remember, let's draw a square. So if I have a square, right, what do we know about a square? We know that the lengths are all equal. So my perimeter for a square is basically length plus length plus length plus length. That's if I started here and I just walked all the way around and I made each one of these a length. So my perimeter is in fact 4L. Now I'm looking for the length of one side. So what do I know? I know that my perimeter is equal to 36 meters, but that is equal to 4 lengths. So now I want my length on its own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 4, and I see, and you can use your calculator again, so we've got 36 divided by 4, and that's 9. So my answer here is 9, and don't forget your units, 9 meters. You can go back and check and say, well, okay, if I've got 9, then I go 9, 18, 27, 36. I know that I'm on the right track. Well, I know that I've got the answer correct, which is great. Show this calculation. Can't stress that enough today. Right, next question. If the 9th of February 2011 was a Wednesday, determine the probability that the 26th of February will be a Saturday. Well, what we need to work out is we've got Wednesday was the 9th of Feb. So, okay, the following Wednesday, we're going to basically add 7 days to that. The following Wednesday will be the 16th. And the Wednesday after that will be, plus another 7, will be the 23rd. And these are the kind of steps that I actually want to see in your papers. Show the examiner exactly what you're doing and how you're thinking. Right, now we've got Wednesday the 23rd. Well, let's see, we've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Right, so Thursday will be the 24th, Friday the 25th, and Saturday the 26th. Now, what did our question say? What is the probability that the 26th will be a Saturday? Now, we know from our calculations that it is Absolutely, the 26th is a Saturday. So what does that give us? It gives us 100% that it is the right day. So just make sure that you show the calculations. We don't have to show this probability as like a number out of something, because it is absolutely perfect. We've shown that without a doubt it is going to be the 26th. Now, you know what, guys? I think maybe we should take a small break, go get something to drink, kind of stretch a little bit, and come back because we've still got lots to do. I'll see you now. Now you are ready we are now going to be dealing with some percentage. So let's look at, what have we got? We've got question 2, and this is adapted from the Feb-March 2011 paper 2, question 1.1. So, Mrs. James, the principal of Vuka High School, conducted a survey amongst all the learners of her school. Now it's important that you read everything very carefully, kind of highlight any numbers. In one of the questions, all the learners were asked the time to the nearest minute that they usually took to travel to school each day. The responses to the questions are shown in the table below. I always like to analyze a table before I carry on with the question. So these are kind of things that you need to do while you've got your 10 minutes reading. Go analyze all the questions, all the tables. Table 1. This is the time usually taken by the learners of Vuka High School to travel to school each day. And what we have here is the time taken in minutes, and we've got 0 to less than 10, 10 to less than 20, 20 less than 30, etc., etc. The number of learners, so here we've got 195, 340, carry on, and the percentage of learners, so 15,6, 27,2, etc., etc. So now we need to go and look at our questions. So first question says, calculate the missing value of A. So we are looking for A, and this is a percentage, the percentage of learners, and we have all the other percentages. So basically, although we can use this number, we don't know how many people she actually interviewed, because nowhere in our question did it tell us how many children she actually interviewed. So I don't know what that 185 represents as a total, but I can tell you that all the percentages need to add up to 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up all of these percentages, and I'm going to minus that from 100. So I'm going to basically show it like this. I'm going to say 100% minus, and then I'm going to open my brackets and say 15,6 plus 27,2. Now you don't have to write out each one, okay, eventually plus 4,4. But I do need to show that total. So I'm going to have 100% minus, let's get our calculator out. Right, we've got 15.6 plus 27.2 plus, we don't know what A is, 22.4. Let's move our calculator over to the other side. 22.4 plus 7.2 plus 2.4. Double check that you're typing in the correct numbers. Plus 6 plus 4.4. And I get an answer of 85.2. So let's write that in, 85.2%. Now A is going to be 100 minus that. So let's get our calculator out again. I don't need to clear this. I can say 100 minus my answer that I had, and I get 14.8. So my answer to A is 14.8. I think I need a pen. 14.8%. Does it make sense? Now what I want to see is I want to compare it to numbers around it. If I compare the 185 to 195, 195 was 15.6. I'm expecting a percentage a little bit less. Have I got that? I do. So I think that I'm on the right track, and I think that that's correct. So always make sense of your answer. So we got 14.8%. Now we need to calculate B. So B is now asking for the number of learners that represent 4.4%. Well, what we can do in this case is we can take any one of these values and work it out as what does 1% represent. So let's take the one next to it. Let's take this block here. Let's change colors. Right, we're going to take this block here. Right, and we are basically going to say, for B, we're going to say that 7.75, what was it? 75 learners represented 6%. Now I want to know how many learners are representing 4.4%. That's what I want to know. Can you see the way I've set it up? Perfect. I've got it as a ratio. So all I need to do is say, well, okay, what did we do here? We need to do the same thing there. So what did we do from 6 to get to 4.4? Well, what we do is we times it by the second number divided by the first number. I'll show you another way we can think about it in a second. So what I'm basically going to say 75 times by 4.4 divided by 6. The other way I could think of doing this is saying, well, okay, if 75% represented 6%, if I divide this, I'm going to get what 1% represents. So let's get my calculator out and I'll show you that. 75 divided by 6, and I get 12,5. So in this case, I'm going to say, well, okay, 12,5 equals 1%. And now I can take that and times by 4.4. But that's basically what I'm doing over here. Right, so I'm saying 75 times by 4.4 divided by, we can do it as a fraction, in fact. Let's do it as a fraction. 4.4 divided by 6, and I get an answer of 55. So 55 learners. $55 learners is what represents B. Does it make sense? Let's go back to our calculator. So we're basically saying that that is 55. And does it make sense? Well, 2.4, if I had to double that, would be 4.8. That would be 60. So I'm can you see how I'm making sense of the answer? So that's perfect. We've got that answer. Let's move on to the next part of the question. Right, we've still got the question. What percentage of learners take 40 minutes or more to travel to school? So now we want to know the percentage of learners. So we're going to have to work out our total number of learners. So this, remember, was 55. So, and we're 40 minutes or more to travel to school. So we're going to go 30 less there. So we're 40 or more. We're going to, those are the numbers that take 40 minutes or more. So we're going to add those up. So let's start by adding those up. So we've got 90 plus 30 plus 75 plus our 55, and we've got 250 learners. So we've got 250 learners and percentage of the learners. So now we want our total learners. And remember, as soon as we see percentage, we know we're going to have to times by 100. So I can already write that in. So let's add up the rest of these. Now we've already got the 250, that was up to 90. So I'm going to add up the rest. So I can just say plus 195, plus 340, plus 185, plus 280. So that's going to give me all my learners. So we've got 1,250 learners. And we want to write that out as a percentage. So get your calculator out. Let's clear that. Use your fraction button. 250 divided by 1250. And don't forget to times by 100. Get an answer of 20%. So take 40 minutes or longer. And that's quite a big percentage. Right, let's move on to our next question. Question 3. This is now adapted from November 2011, paper 1, question 2.2. South Africa has 9 provinces, which vary in size. The pie charts below show the percentage of land area per province and the total population distribution per province. So what are they showing us? This is the land area. That is how much of the whole of South Africa does each province take up in land. So let's go through it, and I think they've given us all our symbols. So we've got our symbols, the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Limpopo, etc. So if we go through our pie chart, we can see, and let's get a color, right, we can see the Northwest takes up 9.5%. It's really nice. They've given us all the percentages, or most of the percentages, and we know each one of these represents one of the 9 provinces. So clearly you can see Gauteng takes up the smallest part of land, size of land compared to the whole of South Africa. And which is the biggest? Well, the biggest is the Northern Cape. And now we've got the population distribution. So this is how much of the population live in that particular province. So of the total population of South Africa. So in this case, you can see, well, let's compare Gauteng again. 22.5% of the population of South Africa actually live in Gauteng province. Right, now if we've gone through the tables, let's see what the question says. It says, which province has the largest land area but the smallest population? So what we need to do is we need to analyze. We're looking for the largest land area and the smallest population. So let's get rid of all these little numbers. Right, land area, got Northern Cape, has got the largest. And let's find our Northern Cape on here. And we see that Northern Cape, let's highlight these. The Northern Cape is the largest here. If I look at all the numbers and the size of the actual pie chart, and if I look at the Northern Cape here, we've got 2.4%. Is there anything smaller? No. So clearly, that is our answer. So all we need to write in here is the Northern Cape. For 1 mark, you don't really need to show any workings, but you can show it on your actual table like I just did. Right, let's move to the next question. The next question, which province occupies the same percentage land area? So we need to go back to just our land area. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the same percentage. So anything that's got the same numbers. So looking through, and normally you would find these, they actually go in order. They should go from kind of smallest to biggest. So not always. In fact, here we don't have smallest to biggest. Right, but we've got the Western Cape is 10.6 and the Free State is 10.6. So they've got the same percentage. Same percentage. So it was the Western Cape and the Free State. Western Cape and the Free State. How easy are those kind of questions? They really are easy. Nice, get you nice marks. Which province or provinces have the same percentage on both charts? So now we're looking for province or provinces. So we need to kind of go through both charts. So I suggest, and what you might want to do is actually take a highlighter and kind of highlight these. So possibly you could take a highlighter. Let's do one, and like the northern. No, that's not a highlighter. It's right. Let's try that again. Try the highlighter, and we can highlight the Northern Cape in one color, and then go through here in the Northern Cape in another color, and then it'll be easy. It'll kind of stand out at you as which one it is. So we need to work kind of logically. So we're going to go through each one and see where it is. I've got the Western Cape is 10.6, and the Western Cape is 10.6. The Eastern Cape, that's 13.9. That's not it. The Free State, that's not the same. Gauteng Province, not the same. KwaZulu-Natal, neither. So you need to go through each one. Right, Limpopo Province, we don't have this amount, so I'm guessing that it's probably not one of those. Mpumalanga is the same. So you need to go through each one. Now, Northern Cape we saw wasn't, and the Northwest wasn't. So what have we got? We've got the Western Cape, the Western Cape. Okay, and we can let's just write out Western Cape, and MP was Mpumalanga. Right, and you can write it as the symbols, because they've given you the symbols and they've given you the explanation. It might be a good idea to write them out more, but we've got that answer. Right, let's move on to the next question. Calculate the percentage land area of Limpopo. And this is the one that they left out of our question. But what do we know? We know that our percentage needs to add up to the entire 100% of the land of South Africa. So clearly, if we add up all of these other percentages and we minus it from 100, we're going to get Limpopo Province. So let's get our calculator out. And what we're going to do is we're going to start, I'm going to start next to Limpopo. I'm going to start here. So we're going to go 6,5 plus 29,7 plus 9,5 plus 10,6 plus 13.9 plus 10.6 plus 1.4 plus 7.6. Just make sure that you've actually added them all and that you know where you've started and where you're ending, and get an answer. And I see that that's 89.8. So I'm going to write that in because I want to show all my workings so my examiner can see this. So I'm going to say, well, it's actually 100 minus 89.8. Was that the number that I had? 89.8. And that's going to give me my answer. So what we need to do is get the answer. Okay, on our calculator we can now just say 100 minus the answer, and we get 10,2. So it's 10,2. Whoops. Let's try that again. 10,2, and that is percent. Don't forget your units. Really crucial that you always have the units. We've always got a reference in Maths Lit. The thing is, very seldom do we actually give you a question where there's no kind of story behind it and something that has a reference. So you need to make sure that you got your units. So get into the habit of units. Calculate the percentage. We've done that. That's perfect. Right, move on to the next question. The next question says, calculate South Africa's total population if the population of the Northwest was 3,249,415. So what do we know? The Northwest, let's go back to our population of the Northwest. The Northwest was 6.5%. So we know 6.5% actually represents 3,249,415 people. Now, I want to know the population, the total population. That is 100%. So I need to work out what 100% is. And that's where I've now got a ratio again. So I can do it again the way I did it in the last question. Remember where I said, well, okay, let me work out what 1% is. So take that number, divide it, and then times by 100. Well, or I could say, which is what I'm going to do, but I could also say, this is a ratio, so what I need to do is I need to times by the second number divided by the first. So then, and I could do the same thing here, times by 100 and divide by 6.5. Just remember, when you're working with percentage, that percentage is no longer important. It represents the unit of what you're dealing with, but you're actually only dealing with the 6.5. We're dealing with the numbers, because we've got percentage in the second part of the question. So don't use the percentage button on your calculator. Right, but let's do it the other way, which I said we'll take our number, 3,249,415, and we're going to divide it by 6.5 to give us how much 1% represents. So 3,249,415 divided by 6.5. We get an answer of 499,910. 499,910, and that's per percent. And now I want 100%. So what I need to do is I need to take that answer, and let's take that answer. In fact, let's try and move that answer. I don't think it's going to move. Let's try and move that answer. Is it going to, yeah, move it? Yes. Let's write it there rather. And we're going to say, well, okay, take that answer, and we're going to times that by 100. So, or we're going to get our calculator out and times that by 100, and we get an answer of 49,991,000. So our answer to that is 49,991,000 people. And don't forget your units. So my units here is people. Hey guys, you know what? I think that we've been working quite hard on these percentages. I think maybe it's time to take another break, go stretch, get something to drink, but hurry back so we can finish the session. See you now. Right, I hope you enjoyed your break, and I hope that you're ready to go with our last little session. And now we're going to be doing some equations. So quite exciting, and love these kind of questions. Right, so we're looking at question 4, and we're looking at equation, and this is adapted from November 2011, paper 1, question 6.1. Right, the Golden Girls Hockey Club qualified to play in the Wilkin Cup finals. In an attempt to encourage her team to score as many goals as possible, the owner of the club developed the following bonus options as an incentive. So she's developed two options. We've got options A and option B. So let's read each one carefully. Option A, each player will receive a basic bonus of 4,600 Rand per game, plus an extra 250 Rand for each goal scored by the team. And now this can be written as, well, let's look at what they've written. And they've given us the equation. So option A is equal to 4,600. That's the basic that she's going to be paying them for each game. So that's kind of her fixed amount that they're getting. Plus they're getting 250 Rand times the number of goals scored. They're getting 250 Rand for every goal scored. And that's going to give us the total. So that's the equation. Option B, each player will receive a basic payment of 4,000 Rand per game, plus an extra 400 Rand for each goal scored by the team. So now this can be written as 4,000 Rand, that's the basic that they're getting for every game they play, plus 400 Rand, that's the bonus, per goal, so times the number of goals scored. So it's important for us to be able to see the formula, to kind of pick out the formula and be able to use the formula. So table 4 below shows the total bonus that each team member could receive based on the number of goals scored. So the total bonus for each player, that's what our table says. We've got the number of goals scored. We've got 0, 2, 4, Q, 7, and 8. Option A in rands, what would they get? And option B in rands. And what's important is to be able to understand how they got the numbers. So if there were no goals scored, they're only getting the basics. So for option A it was 4,600. For option B was 4,000. Then we got for 2 and we're going to carry on. So now we need to calculate P and Q. What I like to do is I like to see, well, okay, before I calculate P, let me understand how they got this 5,600. So if I can do that, then I know P is going to be easy. So what do I know? Let's write out my formula. So I know that option A was 4,600 Rand plus 250, and I'm actually going to leave off the rands, times the number of goals, So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute 4 into the first one and see if I get 5,600. So on my calculator, that's what I want to do. I want to say 4,600 plus 250 times 4. And I get my 5,600. So clearly that's what I have to do. So I'm going to now substitute in my 2, or P. So I need to write it's 4,600 plus 250 times 2. And my calculator out, and what I can do is just go back and change that. So it's 5,100. 5,100. And remember, that's rands. Expecting a number between the two, I am, so that looks perfect. Now I need to work out Q. So Q we can work out in 2 ways. We can either take that or that. I don't think we need to do both, but maybe we will, just to double check. So what do we know? For option A, we know that 6,100 is what our total is. We are looking for, that was 4,600 plus 250 times Q in this. That's what we are looking for. We are looking for Q. How many goals is that? So what we need to do is we need to minus that first. So let's get a different color and show you. We're going to take our 6,100 minus our fixed, and that's going to be equal to 250 Q. And then we're going to divide by 250. And we're going to divide that by 250. But I want to show this in one step further. So on my calculator, I'm actually going to say 6,100 minus 4,600 equals 1,500. So this is 1,500 divided by 250. And that's going to give me Q. Because remember, those cancel. So Q on my calculator, divide by 250, and Q is 6. Q equals 6. Now what I can do is just double check, and how I can check this is let's check it with our second formula. So let's say, well, if this is 6, then my second formula should be, well, okay, it was my fixed cost of 4,000 plus 400 Rand times 6, And do I get the same answer? 6,400. I got that, so I know that I'm correct. It's always nice when you can double check your working and see that you actually have the correct answer. It's always great because then you know, hey, presto, those 4 marks are kind of already in the bag. I've got them. Right, let's move on. We need to answer the following question. Using option B, so now we're only looking at option B here. How much money will each player receive if the team does not score any goals in the final match? Well, if they're just reading off the table, if they're scoring no goals, option B, they're going to get 4,000 Rand. And that's as easy as can be, just reading off the table. Next part of our question. Using option A, how many goals did the team score in the final match if the owner paid each player 6,350? Now we can go to our table and see, is that number on the table? Then we don't even have to do any calculations. So they earned, we're looking at option A, and can we find 6,350? We can. So clearly the answer to that is 7 goals. Now that was a good game for them. They earned 7 goals. Right, and our next question says, suppose the team scored 5 goals. Which payment option would give the player the most money? Now remember this was 6. So we need to work out both of our options for 5 goals and then compare the answer. So we're going to say, well, in option A was 4,600 plus 250 times 5, and option B was 4,000 plus 400 for each goal times 5. And we're going to do both of those calculations. So let's get our calculator out. Let's do the first one. So 4,600 plus 250 times 5. We're getting 5,850. So that's 5,850. And remember that was rands. And for option B was 4,000, clear. Right, 4,000, always check your calculator, plus 400 times 5. In this case, they get 6,000. So option B was 6,000 Rand. Now the question is, suppose the team scored 5 goals. Which payment option would give the players the most money? Need to go back and reread the question. So which is the most? Then option B is the most. So that is the best because that's a higher amount of money. Okay guys, that takes us to actually the end of our session. So what I want to do is I just want to go through a few things before I end off, just to remind you. First of all, check your calculator, that every time you enter an amount, you're entering what you're actually meaning to enter. Make sense of the answer. Does it make sense? Because if you get an answer that is totally outrageous, but the calculator said that, doesn't necessarily mean that it is correct. So think about what you're doing and think about how, if it makes sense or if it doesn't make sense. It's really important that you do that. Show all your calculations. Your examiner and your teachers need to know exactly what you're thinking. Even if you need to write it out in words so that the examiner can follow your train of thoughts, you know what, you will get method marks. So make sure you don't just give an answer. And lastly, don't forget to add your units. So important that everything has a reference, whether it's rand or centimeters or people or whatever it is. I always say to my kids in class, we're not dealing with Smarties. It's not 12 Smarties, it's 12 something. It's like 12% or it's 12 rand. So don't forget your reference. Don't forget your units. And with that, I hope that you actually enjoyed today's session, and I'm sure I'll see you again soon, and good luck for your exams. Goodbye.